Hello and welcome to another exciting new discussion about Stoicism. We were going over the moral letters by Lucius Annaeus Seneca. Now, last time we did letter 72. I wanted to skip letter 73 because it's kind of I find it kind of an odd letter. There are some interesting bits in it, but he seems to extol the virtues of politicians who allow us to practice philosophy. Moving on. How about letter 74? And I want to read you. It's a long one, but I will read you part of it. And I'm sorry that I'm hidden behind my microphone, but it's so big I can't get away from it. Okay, letter 74. Your letter was a delight to me, dear Lucilius. It roused me, for I was growing faint, and it stirred my memory, which tends to be slow and feeble. You hold, and why shouldn't you, that the best means toward happiness is this conviction of ours that honorable conduct is the only good. For he who regards other things as good is dominated by fortune, and subject to another's whim. He who limits goodness to what is honorable is happy within himself. One person is grieved when his children die, worried when they are sick, another is sad when they are of base character and tinged with notoriety. This fellow is racked with love for another's wife, that one with love for his own. You will find one man tormented by a lost election, for another elected office yields its own frustrations. But of all the suffering crowds of humankind, the greatest is of those who are troubled by the thought of death. That thought meets them at every turn, for death may come from any direction. Like troops passing through enemy territory, they must be looking around all the time, turning their heads at every sound, unless this fear is driven from the breast. We live with quaking hearts. You will find some who have suffered exile and confiscation of property, others who endure the worst form of poverty, for they are bankrupt in the midst of wealth. You will find shipwrecked sailors and men who have undergone another kind of shipwreck, since the people's wrath or their envy, that dart most deadly to the upper class, has struck them carefree and unawares, and has flattened them like one of those sudden storms that blow up from a cloudless sky, or like a thunderbolt that causes all the land around to tremble. Just as when someone is struck by lightning, the bystanders are stunned as well, so in these chance disasters one is stricken by calamity, others by fear, as much alarmed by the sight of what can happen as those are to whom this has actually happened. Everyone is made anxious by the sudden misfortune of others. Like birds that are put to flight by the whir of the sling, whether or not it is loaded, we are startled not only by the blow, but even by the sound of the blow. No one can be happy then who entrusts himself to this belief, for there is no happiness without tranquility. A life amid anxieties is a life of misery. Everyone who is much devoted to the advantages of fortune inevitably sets himself up for great emotional turmoil. There is but one road that leads to safety. You must rise above external things and be content with what is honorable. For he who thinks there is something better than virtue, or that anything besides virtue is good at all, exposes his breast to everything fortune can throw at him, and waits anxiously for the blows to land. Now, here we get to, I think, my favorite bit in this letter. Set before your mind the following image. Fortune is putting on a festival. Elected office, wealth, and popularity are the largesse that it scatters amid this mortal crowd. Some of that largesse is torn to bits by many grasping hands, some shared out in faithless bargains, some carried off to the detriment of those who get it. Some of that falls to the inattentive. Some is knocked away by those trying too eagerly to snatch it, but even when luck attends the catching, none of it brings anyone a joy that lasts even until tomorrow. The intelligent person, therefore, deserts the theatre as soon as he sees the gifts brought in. He knows that small favours may come at a high price. No one grapples with him as he is leaving. No one throws a punch as he is headed for the door. That scuffle is around the loot. The same thing happens with the gifts that fortune showers upon us. Poor things, we are all in a fever and a fret. We wish that we had many hands. We look this way and that. We think they are too slow in coming, these gifts that madden us with desire, that come to so few, though all expect them. We want to be where they are falling. We rejoice if we catch a few where others have been disappointed. Either we pay a great price and anxiety for our cheap trinkets, or we get none and are disappointed. Let us withdraw, then, from the show, yielding our places to those who are still snatching for the prizes. Let them be the ones to gaze at those goods suspended in mid-air, and let them be in greater suspense themselves. All right. Sorry for that very long bit of reading there. But I think some very interesting points are raised in this particular letter. And one of them is that we continuously grasp for all sorts of good things that we want, things that we desire, whether that is a station in life, specific office, I mean like a public office, whether that is riches or status or any of these things. And what I find very interesting is that Seneca points out, but be aware of what is involved in those things. You may find that you can get something by doing someone a small favor, but that may actually come at a big price to you, for example, because you have to sacrifice your integrity, because you have to help out with a favor that you don't really want to help out with. Maybe you have to do something that goes against your moral compass. And beyond that, even when you get these things that people often actively pursue, I think what happens a lot is that once you get that thing, you realize that nothing really changes. And that can be very surprising. I had a conversation with a colleague. We were talking about, we work in academia, and we were talking about getting tenure, and I thought what he said was very interesting. He said, well, you know, it's obviously a big thing when you get tenure. It's a permanent contract. You're kind of set, right? Now you have some sort of permanency somewhere. But on the other hand, the work stays the same. The work that you have been doing as you were working towards obtaining tenure is the same as what you will do once you're tenured, and nothing changes. So really, you look forward to that moment, then you arrive there, and it is a big thing. But then you also realize, but I'm doing the same thing I did yesterday when I did not have tenure. And I think this applies to many things, not just this sort of academic setting. I think this applies to a lot of different situations, a lot of different things in life, where we look forward to something. We think that if we do X, Y, or Z, well, if I have that specific position, or whatever, that house, or live in this place, or have that type of car, or this, whatever, that specific fountain pen, then everything will be a lot better. Then I will feel better. I will feel different. But almost invariably you do not. You don't, because nothing really changes. Maybe you get a slightly higher salary, or you get a little bit more social status or something like that. But at the end of the day, often that is such a tiny effect. You don't even notice the change. And I think that is something that we tend to overlook a lot. So then what's the solution? Well, Seneca is clear. So don't desire any of these things. Don't pursue those things. And I think you have to be careful with that, because it's easy for this to be interpreted as, well, then don't do anything. Don't have any ambitions. Don't have any type of desires in life. That's obviously not possible either. It's good to have ambition. It's good to have a healthy ambition to want to achieve something in life. That is in itself healthy. But it's the way people focus on it that can make it unhealthy. And so Seneca says, so then focus on doing the right thing. If you do the right thing, you should be happy. This is the central tenet of all of Stoicism. Be virtuous, and you will be happy because you're doing the right thing. How can you be happy if you know you're doing the wrong thing? Right? But if you're doing the right thing, then you know that, then you can be happy about it. You can be happy about everything in life because you're doing the right thing after all. I think those things are very important. So, that I would say is very relevant, is important, and that is something that is so deeply intertwined with Stoicism that it's something that is worth thinking about and really trying to apply. Focus on doing the right thing instead. Focus on making the right decisions, and by doing so, everything else will come. Or not. Remember, not everything is within your control either. You may really want that job, you may still not get it. But that's how life works, right? And it's a different matter of then dealing with that, but I've talked about that in about 200 videos now. So, I mean, the point hopefully is getting clear. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. There is more to this letter. It's a fairly long letter, but I thought I would focus on this part, focus on those things that do matter, and have reasonable expectations about what achieving something will really do for you. It's usually a lot less than we think. And that's okay. But then just be aware of that. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think specifically about this feeling of trying to achieve something, and then when you achieve it, nothing really changes. Is that something that people have experienced? Or am I really weird in having experienced that? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will be back next time with more talk about Stoicism. Bye.